Now that I've got your attention, Apple is not the absolute worst, but I do have a lot to say about them. Let's begin. I was once quite fond of Apple. My first iPhone was an iPhone 4S. It was a hand-me-down, and the iPhone 7 just came out at the time. But I did like it. I liked the software, and I loved the design, and I still do. But my biggest issue with the phone was that it got way too hot. Like, too hot for my bare hands. So I bought a turtle box case. That eliminated the heat, but it did not change the fact that I could not download most apps. This is when I started to resent Apple, because I also owned an Android phone that was just about as old. The HTC Evo 4G, probably one of the most badass phones I ever had. The thing had a kickstand built into the phone. A kickstand. On the back of it, a kickstand. Oh, also, a mini HDMI port. How badass? iPhone who? Okay, I'm getting a bit off track. I began to download apps on the coolest looking phone ever, and I hated every second of using it. It was about 3 times slower than my ancient iPhone, which was already pretty slow. Now, these were not the only phones I had. I had an Alcatel something or whatever, not too fancy. Now, speed aside, it let me download damn near every app I could find, with exceptions for large apps such as Instagram. The hardware was just too old to run it. You may be thinking, you just uploaded the phone a ton and let you download new apps. Now that would be a very good point, except I never even looked for a software update. I'm the kind of guy who would rather suffer in old, unstable software on old devices for the novelty of it than update it. It was running Android 2.3 if I remember correctly. All I know is that it was no version beyond 3. Despite Apple's superior hardware and software to the HTC phone, it wouldn't run any new apps. Like none. This is when I realized something was wrong. Apple wants you to ditch your old phones and keep the new ones. Now, that in itself isn't bad, but I found some things in research I did then and now that support why I hate Apple. Ah yes, the iPhone. The iPhone was once the pinnacle of technology, but these days it's nothing but an overpriced fashion statement. The iPhone has been reduced from a sleek design with one tactile button to an ugly slab of nothing but a screen with a fat-ass notch. And don't get me started on that camera bump. Now, this is purely subjective. Times have changed, and so should have the iPhone. And I personally didn't agree with it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the design. I thought it was ugly. But the problem I have with this is how gullible people are to keep buying the new ones that almost have no difference from the last one. They just make it a little bit faster, way bigger, and maybe remove a feature or two. Do I even need to elaborate what I mean by that? Now, all of this is obvious. I'm probably boring you at this point, so let's talk about the charging cords. This is when it gets interesting. A charging cable. Everybody needs one. Whether you're Team iPhone or Team Android, or that weird guy who uses a Linux phone and thinks they're better than everyone. Apple's charging cables used to be durable. Well, not really, but they were much more durable than the one they have out now. If you're confused, I'm not talking about Lightning. I actually really like Lightning. I wish my phone had it. The Apple charging cables are unbelievably expensive. They are $30 United States. $30 for a cheap-ass cord that feels like a greasy condom and breaks within a year if you're being super careful. To get some perspective, Apple cords are $30. Right? Yeah, you heard me say that. And the cheapest ones I've ever seen were $6. Sure, those chargers are crap too, but it's a price difference that boggles my mind. Apple felt intimidated by these third-party companies building better chargers, so on their newer iPhones and iPads, they completely removed support for third-party chargers. How scummy can you get? Other than that time you used child labor for 3 years. Yeah. We're not forgetting that one. You are a $1 trillion company because you are scummy liars trying to cut costs every way possible while keeping your devices high-end. And I'm sure that everyone at Apple saw this video and started bawling and ran home to their families in their $1 million mansions. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to spit facts. Let's move on. Most people don't have the patience to repair a device on their own. So they return to their local insert big tech company name here store. Most big tech companies have questionable repairs, possibly hiking up the prices for problems that aren't that serious, if serious at all. But Apple takes it to a whole other level. They start with asking you what the issue is and then begin analyzing your device for issues. And I honestly don't need to explain anything here. Just watch this video. The link is in the description if you want to watch the entire report.
How are you?
I have an appointment at 2:30.
Come with me.
Our team came to a Toronto Apple store with a MacBook computer that had a common problem. The screen had stopped working.
It's like very dim when I try to turn it on.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll jump out the back and have a look on the inside.
Sure.
Thank you for your patience. So there's a lot of liquid that's gotten on the inside. So I took a little picture. The little red dots here, they're normally white, and it means that they've come in contact with liquid. So for it to be basically all over the whole computer, it means that something's gone through the whole thing. So with that, we'd need to be looking at replacing quite a few components.
Are you sure could it be something else as well?
Well, regardless of what the cause of it is, if it isn't the liquid, we have to fix the liquid. So it's not like we can't do partial repairs when it's been damaged by something.
So what are my options now?
What I was going to say is basically all the components that we need to replace is going to cost more than $1,000. So
to fix it entirely will cost more than $1,000?
Yeah. So at the very least we'd need to replace is the logic board and the top case. So that we're looking at $600 plus $500, so $1,100 with a labor of $100. And then if we need to replace the display as well, that's another $780. So the display we may not need to replace, but we're still looking at a total of around $1,200 there.
Wow. So just to be clear, there's no cheaper alternative for this?
I mean, that cost is very close to the cost of buying a new computer. In terms of fixing it in the store, no.
So this is a MacBook Pro that the Apple Store said would cost $1,200 to fix.
See the pin that's sticking out?
Okay.
So that pin is actually most likely the pin for the backlight. And as you can see, it's probably not making contact because it's bent outwards. And I got my set of tweezers over here, and I'm just going to try to push that back into the slot and try to get it back into its groove so that when I re-plug in the connector, it'll work.
At the Apple Store, they suggested this was water damage.
Well, you can see that there are water indicators that have turned red, so that's why they got that idea, and they're by the battery. So this is a water indicator, and these turn red when they see liquid. However, the thing here is that these not only turn red when they see liquid, they also turn red anytime there's humidity. So if you have this in a very humid room, all of these sensors will turn even if you've never spilled liquid on the machine. All right, so let's plug this back in and hope for the best. All right, as you can see, we've got an Apple and we have a light.
So it fixed.
Yeah, now...
That took you like 1.5 minutes?
Maybe.
So if I walked in off the street with this problem, what would you charge for the repair you just did?
If somebody wanted me to just bend the pin back, I wouldn't charge them for that. I would say, I'm going to rework your original cable. That may not last long term, but here, it's free. If they wanted us to replace the cable, depending on the model, anywhere from $75 to $150, depending on the difficulty of opening that model. But something like this we wouldn't charge for, and 99% of the time, just bending the pin back, it'll allow it to last until the end of the life of the computer.
Yeah, that's really sad. But this is about all I have for this video. I know I missed a lot, but I didn't want this video to be too long. If you agree with anything in this video, let me know. I reply to all comments. This is my report about Apple being pretty scummy. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.